Just want to go ahead and say your name.
Patricia Lynch.
And thank you for doing the interview. My first question, tell me something really great about being in your 60s.
It's just been so liberating. I just really feel that I've come to a point where this is really who I am. I'm not afraid to be who I am and to really celebrate that. And it really did start on my 60th birthday when I decided that it was time to go back to my natural hair color, which you see now. But it was a big step for me to do that. First I had really long hair because I was doing Civil War living history. So cutting it meant kind of an end to that part of my life. And it's probably the best decision I made.
Anything super negative about being in your 60s? Or not so great?
No, I can't think of anything. It's really been, I think, the best time of my life.
How have your personal relationships changed being in your 60s, if at all?
I think, going through 25 years of caregiving, it's true for the parents we were caring for and for ourselves too. We really lost touch with a lot of people because we were constantly turning down invitations to do things and kind of living this kind of cloistered, isolated life. So now we're starting to actually have time for relationships. During that period, I was really involved with Facebook relationships, which aren't really that nourishing. And I got to a point where there was a select group of people on Facebook, and we decided to meet once a month, face to face. And that's just really been nourishing. We call it the Saturday Morning Club. And no real purpose, but just to encourage one another. So that's really a whole new dimension. I've met a whole different group of people through that way.
And are those people the same age as you or younger? Do you have younger friends?
I have actually a friend who I met when I was her Girl Scout leader. So she's probably about 15 years younger, but somebody who's really shared my same outlook on life and a lot of my passions. So yeah, she's a rare occurrence. Most of them are our age.
Yes. Do you feel that you should make friends with younger people to get different perspectives or
I work with a lot of young adults in my publishing work, and that's just really refreshing. I just really like their perspective, but I don't really feel a need to actively pursue relationships at this time. We've always, my husband and I have always wanted to be available for people. When we were married, we took a vow of hospitality. So we're always looking to welcome people who need a place to stay. We've had people from all over the world live with us for different periods of time. So I think availability and hospitality are two things that you can't really predict. Who's going to walk in your door?
Is it the vow of hospitality just between you and your husband, or is that something? Okay,
yeah.
I never heard of that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. That's just part of the New Testament that fascinates me. That when you welcome strangers, sometimes you're entertaining angels. So,
as I see the angel over there.
Oh,
that's cool. That's a really wonderful way to approach life.
We had only lived in this house for I think 2 weeks when we found out that there were Polish young people that needed a place to stay. So we had 2 teenagers from Poland living with us for the next 4 months. So our life's been like that.
That's pretty great. What does the word old mean to you?
Something I don't yet apply to myself personally. I guess I've been working with the elderly for so long. I think of infirmity and limitation, but also a sense of determination to live fully. I saw that in my mother-in-law, who was 96 when she died, that she enjoyed life fully till the very end. We had a New Year's Eve party here She died 5 days later, so she was living really fully till the end, and joined us. And that Civil War thing is kind of a path. I don't know how I got on it, and I don't know what the meaning of it yet, but she enjoyed it as well. She liked to dress up in 19th century clothing, even though she was in her 90s. And
That's amazing.
so I'm not sure. I don't know what that means, and I don't apply that to myself
Okay.
at all.
Here, 1 second.
Sure.
Sorry, just
That's
got a
okay.
couple we're rolling.
How do you think the two genders different in their approach to turning 60 and older?
I've never given that any thought. I think women approach it with more of a spirit of adventure and possibility. At least in my personal acquaintance, I've seen people really come alive. I think you lose certain inhibitions, and you're more willing to take risks. I've seen women do that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have that much experience with how men approach that.
But women don't have any, do you think women have any fear of getting older?
My fear, and I share this with a number of people, even my next youngest sister, getting older without children gives me some anxiety. Not knowing who will take care of me. And we've seen all, I grew up, or first met my husband, we were working in a nursing home, so I have a lot of experience of lonely people without children. That does concern me a lot.
Yeah, that concerns me a lot too. Because I'm not even married, so I don't have any children. So yeah, that I think is, you want to think it's going to be okay. That,
Oh, I know it's not going to be okay.
You don't think so?
I just, my mother-in-law always used to say, "Don't get old. It's hell on earth." And I think long-term infirmity, maybe losing control of your care, that's just really frightening to me.
Yeah, I do see when I visit my mother, and there are quite a few people that live there that do not have any children visiting, and the girls that are staff there say you and another gentleman, the people they see the most often. Some people get no visitors, so yeah, I might be afraid of that too.
Yeah, and I think the financial climate is also frightening. We made decisions over the last 26 years in caring for my husband's parents that were not financially wise, but there were things that we needed to do to care for them. So we're really not in a good position now. We don't have long-term care insurance. Don't know how long our resources will last. And don't know what direction the country is headed with caring for the vulnerable and elderly and poor. Yeah. I've never really had a chance to articulate that before, but yeah.
Yeah. What things are more important to you now compared to, say, maybe 10 years ago?
I think really trying to be authentic and to be involved in things that are true to what I believe. The last 10 years, I've always had kind of a mantra that comes out of Nia, and that is to live with intention, awareness, gratitude, and reverence. And after a while I added passion, but now I've added authenticity. I was involved in some things. I could do anything with passion, anything that I choose. And the last 12 years, I did something with great passion that always made me question why I was doing it. And in February this year, I reached a point where I just made a break with what I was doing because it wasn't true to what I believed. I know, being kind of vague, but and that the day that I made that decision, I went right to Coral Centro and re-enrolled in the movement programs just to be with people, to be in solidarity with people who shared some of my political outlooks and my social outlooks and my belief in what's possible for all people. That was a really a turning point for me.
So a place where you could go to a source of comfort and support.
I like to say that movement really saved my life. Gave me it gave me a safe, sacred place to be with people, and just really was a source of hope. I don't really say that lightly, that it saved my life. I think, I didn't really anticipate what grief at the loss of my mother-in-law was going to do to us, and how long it was going to take me to find myself. So that her death occurred in my 60th year, and simple things. I'd be home working, and I think, oh gosh, I don't have anything in for lunch. But it never occurred to me now that I had the freedom to go out and get something. We lived that caregiving role 24 hours a day for 26 years, and I really didn't know what to do with that freedom.
So as we were talking in the other room, you have to kind of take another look at yourself and who you are. Your role kind of changes, because that was your role as caregiving for her.
It's gone overnight. When my father-in-law died, it never occurred to me that not only was I losing someone who was dear to me, but I was losing who I was. Who I was connected with his well-being and, caring for him around the clock. And then, in an instant, I couldn't say I was a caregiver anymore. And the same thing with my mother-in-law. I just was lost.
So when did you kind of know who you were again?
Well, one of the gifts of caring for them was that I was able to do some work from home. And evidently the person I was working for in Chicago, there were a lot of people waiting for me to be more available to them. And so a whole new dimension for my work opened up. I was able to be more creative. I designed books, magazines, and that kind of thing. So who I was becoming was related to this creative process with work. And then just allowing myself to have that time to grieve and to explore what it meant to be just the two of us and the dog, to have time for one another.
Right. And with
Okay. Sorry.
That's
just
okay. So with all that you just said, do you now have different goals and ambitions than you did while you were caregiving? Did those goals and ambitions go away when you were caregiving? And did they reappear after?
I think I suppressed goals and ambitions while I was caregiving. I didn't want to think about the future. I think we often were asked, well, what are you going to do when your father-in-law dies? Or what are you going to do when your mother-in-law dies? And it's something that I didn't even want to enter into that process, because it wasn't, the caregiving, we weren't looking for it to end. We were just looking to be useful for as long as we were needed by our parents. And so I guess I didn't really, during that time, have any goals or ambitions for the after caregiving years. So I just had to wait for something to kind of bubble up.
Okay. And now, any new goals or ambitions? Do you feel like the need to accomplish anything right now? Anything left unfinished? Anything you want to try?
guess one of the latent goals or the underlying goals has always been to be closer to my family. They're a little bit dispersed now, but we would like to be in New England more, just be available to them, and to maybe that's who's going to support us when we're infirm, my younger brothers and sisters. But I think, just following this path with publishing is really good for me. One of the things that terrified me at first was driving to Chicago to the office. So I started out having somebody drive me, and then I took the train. And then I drove down, but I got off the expressway on the North Shore and took Lake Drive all the way in. Now, this is a big step for me to be able to actually to drive down to Andersonville every other week. And I really feel it's a sense of adventure and accomplishment to be able to do that. And also the interaction with the publishing company face to face. I mean, surely I could keep doing my work here on the computer, but it's just really been energizing to meet with the creative team on a regular basis. And I just want to keep going with that as long as the publishing company continues to exist.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that with the publishing company?
Actually started while I was caregiving, so it's about 20 years that
Wow,
I've been
that's
doing
awesome.
design from home.
That's awesome.
You know.
So to keep that going that sounds like something you really want to do.
But I also want to, continue our commitment to being available to people in need, however that is. This summer we've been able to share our garden produce with people at Coral Central. That just happened. We had just incredible crops that we couldn't consume and we couldn't give away here, so I just started bringing it down to share with people. So I'd like to continue things like that, whatever riches I have, to be able to share them where they're needed.
I think I'm going to cry.
Oh, don't cry.
Oh, that's just so wonderful. Sorry, that's just really great. Sorry, I just kind of got a little flustered there. If you want to keep it going or stop at the outer characters. I don't know if I asked this already. After living on the planet for 60 plus years, did I already ask that? After living on the planet for 60 plus years, how has your philosophy of life changed?
Oh, it's a lot more expansive. I was raised in a Catholic tradition and went to Marquette, so really had a strong kind of Catholic philosophical outlook, and now it's much more expansive. I think my contact with people and my reading and my openness to other traditions has just really changed. And I guess through it all, I just see the need for compassion, and I think that can work miracles in our world.
Yes, I think we could use a lot more compassion, don't you? Yes. It's an awesome point. What advice would you give to younger people? Excuse me. What advice would you give to younger people getting older?
I guess it's advice to anyone is just to really treasure the moments that you have and try to find something to be grateful for every day, and to kind of let that gratitude lead you through life. I guess to really take the time. So I guess maybe getting older for me means allowing myself to slow down. That I don't need to be going out every weekend. That when opportunities I'm given, just really able to engage. I think young people today need to engage with people face to face. That's one of my big concerns for the future, is that we need authentic communication, and not by texting or other electronic means. It's really important, just even for our physiological growth, to be able to look one another in the eye and to engage.
When you were younger, what was your image of someone who was 50 or 60 or, let's say when you were 20, 25? What was your image of?
My parents are so much older. They didn't get married till late in life, so when I was 20, I thought of them as old. I'm having just trying to put that together. And when I was 20 was about the time that Patrick and I started working at St. Anne's Home for the Elderly. It was run by a religious order called the Little Sisters of the Poor. And their mission was to the elderly. And for a while, I thought I had a vocation to that order because of their commitment to the poor, elderly, and just really, I think, inspired by their tenderness toward older people. Be able to see them as full human beings and to understand their very complicated paths in life that brought them to where they were. So I think I had a great deal of sympathy for older people, but not really understanding at the same time what brought them to where they are.
You've had a lot of, obviously, life experiences with your caregiving of your loved ones. In thinking of the end of your life, how has your perspective changed over the decades?
I think I'm not afraid to die. I think I just see it as a moment of transition. And I think I would embrace it. Not without a certain amount of, fear or hesitation, but I think I'm ready. I think when my father-in-law died, I was ready to say, I can go anytime now. And when my mother-in-law died, during the week that we cared for her here at home, there were so many things happening around us from nature that were just unbelievable, that convinced me that there were people waiting for us, and that all of creation is waiting for us to make that transition. So I'm not really afraid of that. I'm afraid of the illness or whatever infirmity that would precede it, but I'm not afraid of what comes next, even though I don't know what it is. I'm not afraid.
When you were younger, did you feel like you were afraid? Did you think about death or talk about death? And like some of us when we were younger, we just or death is a long way off. I don't have to.
It's a long way off, and I'm not even going to think about it. And my behavior doesn't matter. I'm immortal.
Couple more questions, and this may tie into things you've already said, but what do you see in store for you? Like, what's the next phase of your life? What's coming up?
Downsizing. And I think we're trying to live now as if we're going to move. We've gotten rid of furniture and every unnecessary thing that we've, decorative items, and I think our next step would be downsizing books and LPs, because I'm not moving LPs again ever. But I think just getting smaller and living more lightly. It's a big step though, because the house holds memory too. We're here where we are because of caring for Patrick's parents, and but we know that's coming, and we're starting to talk about that seriously.
And continue your work with your hospitality and those,
I would say I want to live someplace where I could walk to everything I need, because I'm sure someday somebody's going to pry the car keys out of my hands and not let me drive anymore. So.
Yes, I did that with my mother. She actually kind of handed it over to herself when she was hitting rocks at the end of her driveway. It's okay, you're done.
Some days I think it's come already, but...
I have one more question, but if you have anything to add or ask or...
No, it's fantastic, yeah.
Here's my last question. What's the capital of Utah?
Is it Provo? What is it? What is it?
No.
What is it? Tell me.
It's Salt Lake City.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just kind of,
We went through the same thing. It's like, well, Salt Lake's the only one I know, but it can't be that one.
he was going on and on
Is
and
it
on.
really Salt Lake City?
Yes. Because I was saying Provo, and then
Those are completely different.
That's okay. Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
if
yeah.
you have
yeah.
something more if a different answer for the, sure. How do you think the two I'm sorry, you ready?
Oh, that was the hardest question.
Good, then I'm going to ask it again. How do you think the two genders differ in their approach to getting older?
I really think, from my limited experience, that women have more of a sense of adventure about getting older. And at the same time, statistically speaking, women are more often alone as they get older. So men don't live as long, and I've already seen this, experienced this with my sister, who was kind of a youngish widow. And I look at my life changing when I was no longer a caregiver, but just the cataclysmic change in her life when all of a sudden, the principal showing up at her door at night, telling her that her husband's died at the desk at school. So I think, through her, I kind of experienced what it means to be alone, and yet, she's another example for me that at age 58 she decided to walk the Camino de Santiago alone, and just incredibly courageous and open, and I think that experience really formed her, but it also kind of convinced me that we are continuing this adventure of life with a certain amount of freedom. And I don't. Patrick's a case of on his own, but I often don't see that same sense of release or adventure in some of the men I've known.
Do you think with women, though, getting older, they fear might be too strong a word, but their looks? I mean, we're so youth conscious and age obsessed in this country. Do you think women fear it in the way of losing their looks and not?
I can see that. For me, I had almost more freedom that it didn't matter how I look. This is who I am. I'm not going to change. I'm finally going to be happy with who I am. And I even, something simple as weight. My mother put me on Weight Watchers when I was 12 years old. I struggled with that my entire life, going up and down. And I finally thought, why am I not just happy with who I am and grateful for that? And I thought, when I turned 60, this is the time. I'm no longer, going to try to measure up. I'm going to, try to be healthy and, still care about how I look, but I'm not going to let that rule me in the way it did for 50 years.
Because that can surely hold us back from maybe living an authentic life, just kind of struggling with all that, not really seeing anything else.
Right, that's how I measured myself, and why can't I measure myself for who I really am interiorly and how I relate to others. So.
Awesome. What does the word old mean to you?
I think it's becoming more of a relative term. Like, I think in my youth I might have looked at 60 as old, but now, it's, I think in our society, old is defined more by attitude than by the number. I think you let yourself be old,
Yeah.
but it's not attached to any age or condition. I think I don't perceive myself as being old. There's a certain amount of wisdom that's attached to older people, and I'm certainly seeing that in the circle of my friends. I think we have a collective wisdom that we're able to share and appreciate. and we want to share it with the younger people.
Do you think the younger people respect us older people?
And I think that's a cultural thing. I think if you look at the Native American culture, for example, traditionally older people are respected and honored. I'm not sure in across the general population that's true, unless you have a relationship. I look at Denise Williams, who is working with young people in the central city. She has a garden, Alice's Garden, and welcomes young people in to work at that garden. And they really, I think because of her relationship with the teens and 20-something that are there, that they're able to perceive her wisdom. So I think it has to be relational.
What does the word retirement mean to you?
Not happening. I don't. Yeah, I mean, just technically, I financially, I don't think, we can retire. We don't have huge reserves, probably because of some of the decisions we made the last 26 years when I wasn't full-time employed. That I'm just going to keep working as long as I can. And I wouldn't mind even having to take a job at a grocery store. I'm going to work as long as I can. It's not, I don't think we'll ever have the time or the resources to have retirement be a time of leisure. That's not going to happen for us.
Do you think the word retire, the image of the word, do you think the word retire connotes a negative image?
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day it was different than how people look at it now. The word, what retire really means.
What does it mean? I'm not really sure. The people I know who are about our age who've retired are busier than ever. So it's not a stepping back. It's maybe for them entering a whole new phase of life with the kind of freedom that they have to do the things they want. But I'm not looking forward to, I'm looking forward to stepping back my activity and having more time to reflect and spend time in the garden or things like that. I'm not looking to take a Viking River cruise or a safari or anything like that.
I'm only laughing at the Viking because, I know what that is. It's just a girlfriend of mine wanted to do that, and I'm like, no way in hell am I going to do that. Not going to happen. So maybe instead of the word retire, we should say, retirement, say phase of life, or should we retire the word retire?
Yeah. It just has negative connotations for me. Maybe because it's not going to happen, I don't know.
Any thoughts on what that new word would be? We should develop a new word.
Oh,
I don't know.
I really don't.
Yeah. We'll think of something.
Good.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want us to keep going or no?
No. Yeah, but no.